America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God willing.
I'd like to call the roll for tonight's meeting. We have in attendance Marianne Eddy, Will Sharp, Lily Fell, Adrian Pickering, and Herb Sample. John Parker originally was going to try to attend via Zoom, but he will no longer be doing that. So having a quorum, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first business will be to approve the minutes from our March 6th and April 3rd meetings. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes that were in our packages?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Okay,
Do
well,
you want to roll it to the end of the meeting?
I can do that. You can read in between. Yeah, sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. Going on to the second portion of the meeting, we have comments and questions from the public. Is anybody here from the public or via Zoom that has anything to say relative to anything that's not specifically on the agenda tonight? Seeing or hearing no one, we can move on to the next portion of business, which is decisions and resolutions. The first is 10 Vitale Silly. And do we have anybody here from the application to speak on that? Ms. Rivens, would you like to come to the podium? No, nothing to say? Okay, that's a change.
No, he is not a bloviator. He is not.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Brent, thank you. You were my next
Just to
thought.
clarify, we are on the decision phase, so the public hearings are closed.
Yes,
But this section right here is just us reading the resolutions for you guys to make a decision. So if the applicant wants to say something, I would ask that we go through the.
and after we go through our review.
Yeah, but
Fine,
generally this is still closed, so we're taking the decision.
thank you.
So the first matter on your agenda, the 10 Vitale Silly was adopted. The Harbor Committee adopted a resolution to approve the modification and extension at the last meeting. I believe there might have been misunderstandings between Doris and our office as to whether or not the committee was looking for us to draft something formally. But I do believe, as a matter of record, that the committee has already approved the project as requested by the applicant in meeting the comments that the board had in the last meeting. So I do not believe there's any further action. You okay with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay,
Okay,
I placed the item in error, so I apologize for that.
I don't remember discussing why we're giving him a 3-year extension. Oh, because we're backdating it to 23. Right. I get it.
okay. So that's that one. I think we can move on to number 2 now. So,
okay,
So do we have to vote on that?
no, there's no action.
Okay, sorry.
okay, the next item is 29 Harding Terrace. Brant?
So 29 Harding Terrace, we did prepare a draft wetland permit for the board's consideration tonight. Just to give a quick overview of this project, this board has been doing this project for some time. This proposal is to construct 3 small additions to a residential property, legalize an existing aluminum staircase that accesses water, and establish a non-fertilization, non-disturbance buffer area. The application was heard over a series of 4-5 public hearings. And this board had recognized that there were previous improvements to the site that warranted consideration. Previous improvements that did not come before this board for determination. They warranted consideration with regard to the review of the application that was being requested. The harbor committee further noted that those improvements included a 5 concrete retaining walls, installation of an elevator to the residence, installation of decks on the north side of the house, installation of the aluminum staircase, the installation of a slate and brick walkway along the eastern and southern portions of the residence, and the clearing of property within and along properties that are immediately adjacent to the subject property. Again, the culmination of these unpermitted activities were noted as having potential for impacts to surrounding wetlands and surface waters in the form of the loss of native vegetation resulting in degradation of wildlife habitat and naturalized buffering of pollutants from stormwater runoff, disturbance of soil, and threats of sedimentation into natural resources, the increase of impervious surfaces, which reduces the of stormwater into the ground and creates an increased threat of runoff and erosion towards wetland and surface waters. And clearing of vegetation, both native and non-native, which increased the area of manicured lawn and landscaping, resulting in increased fertilization, herbicide, fungicide, and application needs, which degrades wetland and surface water quality and impacts pollinator species that are crucial to the productivity of surrounding natural resources. Committee also recognized that in 2021, 2022, that the property owner came to this board for previously proposed improvements to the residence, accounting for approximately 532 square feet of an addition to the residence. And with that application, an IAOWTS was incorporated into the project. This board drafted a permit to approve that project with the incorporation of the IAWTS. But the application was withdrawn before a decision could have been rendered on findings of the applicant. It was noted during the public hearing process by the applicant and his agents that the health department approved the plan, again, circa the 21-22 era for the installation of the IAOWTS that was incorporated into the draft permit. The findings, therefore, associated with this draft permit account for a multitude of things. There are many of them. I'm going to not read through all of them. I'm going to try to give a quick overview as best I can. But basically, we looked at the Chapter 285 standards. We outlined them throughout the findings. There are important standards. Most importantly, proposed actions incorporated into both the application directly and indirectly do not meet the village's Chapter 285-9 standards. The 3 proposed additions are within 75 feet of wetlands. The existing antiquated sanitary system, which would include a system not providing treatment of wastewater and not meeting current health department standards, is sitting in groundwater per observations that were provided on the record by the applicant and the applicant's agent. The system that is located on the base side of the residence, approximately 37 feet from wetlands, and a proposed 5,048 square foot cumulative non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer, which is less than the 8,299 square foot 50-foot equivalent buffer standard as recognized in 285-9 D4A, as well as the maximum practical buffer zone requirements outlined in 285-9 C2. Again, throughout the public hearing process, it was noted that the system does not meet health department standards and is located in groundwater. That was clarified by the applicant's engineer, TF Engineering, again, on the record, emails and verbal testimony by the applicant, the applicant's agent. The applicant's engineer also recognized that there are three potential alternatives for the location of an IAO WTS on this property. This board recognized to the applicant and his agent that they were amenable to either of the three options that were put forth. However, the applicant did address concerns with the siting of the system on the south side of the residence due to disturbance of landscaping, trees, and other hardscapes, and also noted permitting requirements by both the DEC and the health department for 100-foot setback requirements, making it difficult for the placement of the system on the north side of the house. It is noted that the system on the north side of the house would be in the same location as the existing antiquated system. The existing sanitary system, as it is located, would be within the proposed non-disturbance, non-fertilization wetland buffer. This is contrary to this board's intention of creating a non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer free of structures, including sanitary systems. The applicant submitted an updated survey on March 27, 2025, recognizing a new mean high water line. They moved the mean high water line landward from the original mean high water line that was shown on the application material, application submission materials as part of the original application. The findings also recognize Dr. Piscover's report, and the report is actually going to be an attachment to this permit. We felt it was appropriate for this permit to clearly recognize within Gobler's report where he states nitrogen loading analysis indicated that septic tanks and septicals were the strongest source of nitrogen for the harbor, representing 90% of the total load. Given this, upgrading these systems and or connecting homes to the sewage treatment plant would be the effective mitigation approaches. The findings further outline section 285-2, which talks about the importance of protecting wetlands. Again, there's a multitude of reasons that connect the wastewater components to degradation of water quality and wetland impacts. I'm not going to go through all of those. The applicant did also, on multiple occasions, make a point to present to the board that the work that was being proposed as part of the application does not warrant the installation of an upgraded IAOWTS for this project. However, this board was very clear about the fact that they wanted to take into consideration the cumulative impacts of all of the previous improvements that did not come before this board as part of the application. And therefore they are cited in the finding sections of this approval. The applicant in general has failed to demonstrate that in consideration of the previous site activities that were conducted without Harbor Committee Chapter 285 review and approval, and without incorporation of an IAOWTS and expansive non-disturbance, non-fertilization wetland buffering, free of structural improvements, inclusive of sanitary systems, that the application meets the following standards from 285-9B, which requires that, along with provisions of 285-9A, C, and D, in granting, denying, or limiting any permit application, the Harbor Committee shall consider whether the proposed project is consistent with the objectives set forth in this chapter, any public comments timely received, and whether the proposed activity will, we outline all of the applicable standards to this application. While the applicant has demonstrated that no practical alternative exists for the proposed improvements to this residence, additional mitigatory measures are available to the applicant to address potential environmental impacts from this project, as well as the community business impacts of the property. Without approval. The applicant advised that proposed non-disturbance, non-prohibition buffer must be monitored by a qualified ecologist. And that the existing sanitary system will need to be removed from the area of non-disturbance buffer. Based on the Harbor Committee's review and consideration of the conditions of approval listed above. Or below, sorry, the proposed activities alone do not meet the statutory requirements for standards of issuing permits as outlined in 285-9 of the Village Code. To continue to protect and preserve Sag Harbor Bay and Little Northwest Creek wetlands and surface waters, there are mitigatory actions which include the installation of an IA-OWTS and an expansive non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer for structures that can be incorporated into the project to constitute a net ecological benefit and meet the Chapter 285 standards. Those are your findings in a nutshell. Secret was conducted. This is a type 2 action, therefore no further action is required. This project is therefore exempt from coastal consistency review requirements. The conditions of approval, the Harbor Committee therefore approves this Chapter 285 wetland permit for the proposed activities subject to the following conditions. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm only going to introduce the first two because they are new or would be in addition to your standard conditions of approval. Condition number 1 is the existing antiquated sanitary system shall be abandoned and removed, and a new IA-OWTS shall be installed on the subject property. It is the responsibility of the property owner / applicant to obtain approvals from the New York State DEC, Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and the Harbor Committee for the removal and installation of the sanitary system. A sanitary engineering plan and any applicable updated site / landscape plans to accommodate the IA-OWTS shall be submitted to the Harbor Committee for review prior to commencement of approved activities. A village building permit shall not be issued for the proposed activities until the IA-OWTS is properly permitted by the New York State DEC, Suffolk County Department of Health Services, and then again, the remainder of the conditions are consistent with standard conditions. So apologies for the lengthy discussion on that, or presentation of that, but this is a pretty extensive wetland permit due to the findings.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Brad. That was a very,
Therefore, the permit is in order and ready for your consideration.
Liz, do you have anything to add at this point?
No.
Oh, one final. This permit is typical of having a 2-year expiration.
All right. Do we have any comments from board members?
I think it was well done, well stated.
Yeah.
You looking for a motion?
Good. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, sorry.
No, this is a decision, sorry.
It's so lengthy, I think.
It's not a public hearing, you need to vote, go ahead, make your
Okay.
motion.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
make a motion that we approve this permit as stated by our consultant Brent Ryder.
I'll
Sir,
second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 33 Bluff Point Road. We have any, Brant, would you like to maybe give a brief summary of the permit that we have before us?
This is an application for the construction of a 6-meter catwalk extending 60 feet to be constructed with 4x4 pillars. And through road decking and the legalization of a 43.54 square foot addition to the existing back deck, as well as the establishment of a 50-foot equivalent 3,846 square foot variable with non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. The public hearing is held in this application. And sorry, public hearing is closed on April 3rd and scheduled for written decision at the May 1st meeting. The applicant has demonstrated that the variable width buffer meets the 285 standards. The applicant has also demonstrated that the existing sanitary system is not located within or underneath the non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. The applicant has advised that the non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer must be covenanted and monitored by a qualified ecologist. Based on a Harbor Committee's review, in consideration of the conditions of approvals below, the significant impacts on nearby wetlands are not anticipated. The application in total meets the statutory requirements for standards of issuing a permit as outlined in 285-9. This is a type 2 action under SEQA, therefore is exempt. You can see the Harbor Committee therefore approves this chapter 285 wetland permit for proposed activities as described above. The most recent application submission materials subject to the following conditions. These are your standard conditions. This permit recognizes survey approved, or survey prepared by Scalise Land Surveying, class dated December 3rd, 30th, 2024. Proposed buffer planting plan prepared by Line class dated 2025, as well as the project plan set prepared by Line Associates, last revised March 18th, 2025. This permit is set to expire 2 years from date of issuance. Permit is therefore in order and ready for your decision.
Thank you. Is that it, Brad? Liz, anything from you?
No.
All right, anything from my colleagues on this?
No.
Do I hear a motion to approve? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second,
Aye.
Mary Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I changed my vote. Thank you. Thanks very much. And then finally, no, that's it, I think.
54 Redwood.
We're all right.
Okay, replace it.
The next item would be 154 Redwood. Brant, you're on again?
So this application is for the replacement of an existing bulkhead. Also placement of 100 cubic yards of clean sand and backfill, layment of the bulkhead, and revegetation of an access path with native vegetation. This application did undergo a public hearing. Public hearing was closed on April 3rd. And maybe adopted resolution to draft decision for tonight's meeting. The finding is such that a covenanted non-service non-fertilization buffer was implemented as part of the above part of a previously issued wetland permit that was renewed in December of 2024. The Harbor Committee has determined that there is no significant impacts to nearby wetlands, and the application in total meets the statutory requirements for standards of issuing a permit as outlined in 285-9 of the village code. This is a type 2 action under SEQA, is therefore exempt from coastal consistency review requirements. The Harbor Committee therefore approves the chapter 285 wetland permit for the proposed activity as described above, and within the most recent application submission materials, the following conditions. So you're saying, as associated with this approval are a site plan prepared by Costello Marine Contracting Corporation dated February 29th, 2024. Elevation plans prepared by Costello Marine Contracting Corporation dated February 29, 2024. This permit shall expire 2 years from the date of issuance. The permit is therefore in order and ready for your decision.
Thank you, Brent. Liz? Nothing? Good. Anything from my fellow committee members on this? Anyone? Okay. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve? Do we have a motion?
To approve?
Lily? Will, the second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, great. Thanks very much. Okay, we now move to continued public hearings. It's my understanding that 11 AM.
Correspondence?
Oh, sorry. You're absolutely right. Thank you. We're moving now to correspondence requiring action and or review. The first is site plan application of 2 Main Street and 22 Long Island Avenue. Do we have a presentation on this tonight? Is that, Liz, what we're thinking?
Well, they're asking,
This
is
is just a lead
It's
agency.
just-
2 Main Street just lead
Is there any
dangerous?
further discussion that we need to have?
No, the planning board generally takes lead agency on these matters when there's a formal
Okay.
site, a commercial site plan pending with the.
Understood. Do you want us to vote on that? Is that, yes, okay. Do I hear a
Make a
motion?
motion.
Second. All in
Got
favor?
that? Mary Ann, Lily is seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The next matter is 59 Glover Street. It's an extension of an existing permit. Brent, do we have anything on that?
Is there anybody
We had
here?
asked the, I think we had asked Doris to reach out to the applicant.
Yes. Katie is on. Kate, can you hear us?
Good evening, board. Yes. Hi, Doris.
How are you?
Hello.
Hello. So I'm sorry, was there a question for the applicant? I couldn't quite hear.
Who is she?
Well, I think the point is that when we last met on this, there was nobody to represent the applicant. And I guess there were some questions about the status of the project and the lapsing of the permit and those kinds of things. Maybe just take a minute or two and give us a sense of where you are so that we can get on with this. That's all right with you.
My name is Catherine Bowers-Cray, attorney for the applicant. So this board approved the wetland permit March of 2023, after which we had to apply for a variance for a pool. On the water side, we were granted the variance. We went to ARB. We've obtained ARB approval, but the applicant has not moved forward with the application, so we have not submitted a building permit. So the facts on the ground remain the same as when this wetlands permit was approved. I didn't represent the applicant when they applied for the wetlands permit, but since then we have taken over representation with All Village Matters, and it came to my attention that the permit was about to lapse. So we submitted a letter request for an extension to all the boards, the ZBA, the ARB, and the Harbor Committee.
Is there any intention to go forward with this project?
Yes.
At what point?
I expect shortly. I don't think they're going to start the construction during the summer, just out of respect to the neighbors, but I believe in the fall it's planned.
All right.
Just one quick point of clarification, nothing has changed with the project?
Not that I'm aware of.
What about the garage structure? There's just driving by, it feels like there's a new building or renovation of an existing garage. Is that on the site plan or?
That was constructed prior to when I came on board. So when I went in front of the ZBA and the ARB, that garage was there. So I'm sorry, I don't have clarity on when exactly that went up. I was looking through the foiled responsive materials that I have, but I don't see a date on that permit. But when I went over to post for the ZBA, the garage was there. And that was last year. But I don't have an exact date.
I think we should review this.
Okay.
Grant, have you looked at this file?
No, we were waiting to see if there was anything that changed, because generally if nothing's changed, and then they can give a good rationale as to why they
Right.
haven't executed the project yet. Or wouldn't.
But we don't
issue if the
know.
Circumstances have changed.
We don't know that because she just came on and she says she doesn't know whether or not anything's changed.
Well, I
Since-
came on prior, sorry to interrupt. I came
Yes.
on, I
Garage,
think it was some, sorry,
did the board approve the garage?
She doesn't know.
I didn't handle any of the garage application.
You should always check that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
happy to look into that.
And if you could clarify definitively if there've been any other changes,
Right.
please.
Sure.
Instead of a hard yes or a no would be lovely.
Sure. I'll take the approved site plan and I will visit the property, do an inspection, and then next month I will be able to report back to this board.
Okay. Because you don't want a permit for something they don't intend to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would think all the time and money they spent in obtaining all the approvals, they do have an intention to build. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gone through that.
Okay.
Right, but they may have changed some ideas in the meantime. Let's just meet next month and find out. You can assure us that nothing has changed.
Sure thing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Do we need to vote?
No,
on-
you need
No,
to.
okay. All right, the next item is the proposed local law 300-9.12.
This is a proposed amendment to the accessory apartment law that's coming before the village board of trustees. There were some provisions in that law that were proving difficult for people to comply with, namely that the dimensional requirements would have to be met for substandard lots for accessory apartment to the extent of like 70% of the lot width and things like that.
Right.
Forcing people to get variances, and the board was reconsidering that. So I don't have we couldn't prepare a coastal consistency review for you this evening. And my understanding is that we're gonna be reviewing SECRA and at the public hearing for this local law on the 13th before the village board of trustees. But I'll just tell you what the law is about at least, so you can get an idea of what it will be when it comes before you. So this is a law where they're gonna separate out the conversion of existing accessory structures to accessory apartments. So when you're converting an existing accessory structure on your property to an accessory apartment, the standards will be much less restrictive. But when you're actually constructing or building a new accessory apartment on your property, not converting an existing structure, but building a new structure, you'll have to meet the provisions set forth in the village code. So including all the dimensional requirements and in 300-4.3, and then also the New York State Fire Prevention and Building Code and the Suffolk County Sanitary Code as well. So if you don't meet those, you'll have to go to ZBA, so that it sort of ensures that any newly constructed accessory apartment will have a public hearing. Neighbor can be put on notice to that effect. So that's the main crux of the amendment at this point in time. And I think it'll have to come back for consistency review unless it's determined to be take two. So we'll see. But it's before the village board of trustees for a public hearing on the 13th.
How many ADUs do we have in the village?
Right now, I don't know. That's a very good question. I think there's like 2 or 3
Yeah.
that are approved right now, and there were about 7 waiting to see if this local law would proceed because they would need variances from the ZBA. That's what I was told. There's no ultimate cap on the number that there could be in the village though.
Right,
So health department will play a big role
yeah.
in that as well.
So as you're saying, this will come back to us in the form of a EIS statement or,
No. We come back in the form of coastal consistency review. That's all the recommendation.
Mhm.
for the village board of
I see,
trustees.
okay.
So nothing to do tonight.
No.
Okay.
There's no form. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Liz. All right, I think we can now move to section 5 of business, which is continued public hearings. Relative to 11 Amherst Road, I understand that there was a request for a postponement.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Or adjourn to the
do we need, does that require a vote or?
Yeah, make a motion to adjourn 11 Amherst Road until the June 5th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Same with the 53 Bay Street.
The one on adjournment too? Oh,
Tiffany, Scolari requesting adjournment.
1 Bay Street or no, 53?
53 Bay Street.
Yeah.
Bay Street. I make a motion to adjourn 53 Bay Street until the meeting June 5th.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. That brings us to new business, and our first applicant is 1 Bay Street. We have anybody here to represent the applicant? Oh, I have to open a public hearing, yes.
Right.
We hear a motion to open the.
I make a
public-
motion to open a
Second?
public hearing on 1 Bay Street.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, please, and
My name is Christopher Edie. I'm the Dock Master General Manager for Waterfront Marina.
Sorry, your last name?
Edie. K-E-A-D as in David Y.
Thank you.
General Manager of Marina. The project that we're looking to do is a small reconfiguration of 3 small slips that we have. Leaf Costello sent over all the plans and photographs. We have 3 slips that are inconsistently sized and are not the safest ones to access, but due to their location, one share a very high finger pier relative to the water. And one, the third slip is a floating dock where a boat backs up to a ramp. So there's no access or safe access from either the dock or the boat. Consultation with Costello. They came up with a plan to remove that finger pier. Take the slips evenly. And in the place of that fixed finger pier, he would fit in a similarly sized floating dock with a ramp. So it's a safer access for our clients. So, in short, it's nothing, we're not gonna be adding or subtracting from what we already have. It's just really a project to make the, facility safer for our clients.
all right, thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add at this
That's it.
point? Okay, stick around.
Can you show us where on this very large diagram the particular finger pier is?
May I?
Yes, please, please approach whatever this is, a bench or a thing. Oh, action, drama, destruction. Okay,
So this is our floating dock. This finger pier
yeah,
is the one in question. So
so these are the retail shops. This is.
You can
Bay
see it here,
Street.
Mary Ann. This might be more helpful.
Oh, maybe, but let's, now we've got this man up here, let's have him, so this right here,
this finger pier is the one we're looking to replace with a floating dock.
okay.
This is fixed here, and it's, like you said, it's a perfect slip,
This slips, yeah, are
so that.
very, one is.
So here it's like a little T dock and now it's gonna be a floating dock.
And just for easy access.
And it's not gonna change the number of boats that
The slips are staying the same. There'll still be 3 slips.
Yeah.
Instead of them being awkwardly sized, they're gonna be even. And they're gonna share a floating dock, so it's safer for people to get on.
So show us here where the 3 boats are gonna be.
Right, so we have one slip here. On the other side of this pier is another slip, and then this slip you see backs up to that ramp. So this slip is,
So boat A,
yep,
boat B,
correct.
boat C.
Yes, sir.
And you want to ixnay so that you've got clearance.
Yes, he's going to replace this pier with a floating dock. So that way But instead of it being these two slips, it's gonna be these two slips, so that way this boat, which backs up to the ramp, has an access point instead of a ramp. And then this one will have a ladder from the bulkhead.
Okay. And
There wasn't a question about the dinghies or anything like that, is there?
We don't have any dinghy docks or any access for dinghies.
Okay, good.
The pilings you're removing are treated CCA pilings?
The existing pilings?
Yeah,
The existing pilings will be removed and replaced with new pilings.
but the old ones are treated, right?
I
They're all
imagine so, they're over
treated.
30 years old.
Yeah, so you're putting in untreated, taking out treated and putting in untreated.
Yes.
Is there a question as to how those get disposed of, the treated ones?
That's,
They're out of the
Brand?
water, so wherever they're going is better than where they are.
That's true. But
Not
it's
that
probably
they
better
make a
in
difference,
gas.
but whatever they're putting in is better than what they have.
No, but I'm just wondering still how you dispose of them. Brant, do you have an opinion on that?
I do not know.
Assume you're gonna use a licensed waste hauler and.
yeah,
Costco, Rainbow. And after, maybe, I don't know what they do, but
It's under their license, so.
I trust it.
oh,
In a playground somewhere,
Yeah.
probably.
Yes.
can you explain something to me? Is, this property is owned by the village and leased to Malloy or owned by Malloy or
my understanding is that Mr. Malloy is the
Property.
property,
does he,
and he doesn't have any leases or anything like that. It's my understanding.
I think this whole, the
Long
whole
Wharf used to
pier,
be part of it, but Long Wharf was separated years ago.
you're right.
but all the shops, the restaurant, it's all owned by Mr. Malloy, I believe.
So that's what I had thought, but it was always, okay, thank you.
Yes. Is that it?
Great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Brant, any comments from you at this point?
No comments other than, plans are pretty specific about it, but untreated materials will be required. They will need to put a siltation boom in to
Yeah,
to be in place during construction to limit sedimentation. But that will all be part of a permit condition package if this board wants to move in that direction.
Okay.
But they're not increasing the number of boats. It seems like a logical application to just better the operation.
Good.
Much safer.
Liz, anything from you on this? Is there anybody in the audience or on Zoom that would now like to comment on this application?
No hands on Zoom.
Anybody here? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I will,
Close.
what?
Close.
It's, yes.
make a motion to close the public hearing?
Do I have
I'll
a second? Lily?
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so I think we could recommend to Brant and Liz that they prepare a resolution of approval for our next meeting, which is June 2nd. Okay. All right, guys, you got the marching orders on that?
We have it.
Good. Okay. That concludes the formal part of the meeting, but now we can move to discussion items. Two on that. First is the Sag Harbor Community Rowing Club.
Yeah,
Yeah, do we have anybody here representing the rowing club?
Yes,
do
sir.
we indeed?
Matt Ivan, Southport Environmental with Lee Oldak, who's the operator of the Sag Harbor Community Rowing Club. You guys should have received the plans for this. I'm not sure if you had a chance
Yes.
to go over. So Lee's been operating this club for over 17 years. I've had this spot. You guys, I'm sure, familiar with it. And what we've been trying to do is get a dedicated pier to be utilized by the kids for practice access, safety into the water. I mean, the boats that these kids are carrying are about 60 foot long. So as you can see, what we're trying to do, build a structure, a dock structure. You're gonna have a proposed entry ramp from the land side. 6 by 32 foot long, it's gonna be fixed. Proposed access platform beyond that 6 by 16. From there, then it's gonna go down, there's gonna be a seasonal ramp measuring 8 by 20 foot long. And then the floating dock, and this is gonna be seasonal as well, is gonna measure 8 by 75 foot long. So we're in the process of gaining all the other regulatory permits. Army Corps is reviewing it. They don't seem to have any issues at this point, but they're very slow, as you guys probably know. Department of State issued the permit, letter of permission, no problem. DEC is fine, they just need an authorization letter from the mayor, which we're gonna hopefully have next week.
They need it from the mayor?
Yeah, from the mayor.
Well,
Because-
no, that would be from the Village Board of Trustees.
Oh, sorry, okay.
What is it?
The Village Board of Trustees.
And what's the letter?
Well, if there's a letter or an owner's endorsement that has to be filled out,
It's
depending on
village
where
property,
they, yeah, the bottom one,
Yeah.
leading up to it, the road ending is certainly village property.
Right.
So to that extent, we may have to fill out an owner's endorsement or give some sort of consent for this application to move forward at the Village Board of Trustees level.
So we're moving along in the regulatory process.
So-
So we just wanted to bring it to you guys as a discussion, try to get some idea or thoughts that you guys might have, about this.
When I was out there talking to you two, there was a discussion about how high you had to go to get over and then back down. The other thing is the width. I mean, you're gonna be carrying these rowing shells which are pretty awkward. So you have adequate width in the,
8 feet.
6 feet, I think.
We're about 8, well, once we get out over the water, it's about 8 foot.
Yeah.
and what about the steps going up and over?
Going up from the land side? it's
Yes.
About 6 feet wide.
So wide enough.
That's wide enough.
So define seasonal for me. Does that mean it comes out of the water in the off season?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Completely. The ramp and the dock, I believe.
Well,
will
the
become-
land, what's that?
The ramp and the dock come out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fixed pier will stay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gonna be
it's on
on
the
the current land body that's there right now.
do you have, can you present this? I mean, we got some pictures, but can you show this? I mean, and point it out to me. Yeah, I like it on the screen.
Come up?
Well, here, you can show me what's gonna be there
Better.
year round, 24/7.
So this section here, and these things are gonna remain. They'll have open grate,
And where's the mean high water line?
reading it upside down, it's low water, hold on.
It's up the driveway. Right.
You see on the elevation view.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's beyond the real
Yeah.
plans. I mean, I guess it does go up occasionally, but yeah. So hold on. So mean high water is just about there, you see?
Right, and where's the permanence piece of this? It's gonna be there,
Okay, so the permanent pieces are gonna be from this part and that part.
Yeah.
okay,
So the ramp and then the overall floating dock will be taken out seasonally.
okay.
I mean, conceptually, what you're doing is going over earth that's been kind of disturbed.
Yeah, yeah.
So conceptually, it's going to not disturb, and
Right.
that's
Well,
the objective.
It's wetlands kind of stuff,
No,
yeah.
I know, but there's a walkway, there's a path there.
already.
So there's no wetlands
Right.
where the path is. So conceptually, it'll grow underneath there.
Yeah.
So what I would like, is, maybe I'm just not very talented visually, but I would love it if we could put some buoys out in the water and we could actually see how far out this is going, so I understand, you know, if you're standing on the ground, you're standing here, how far out that is. I'd like to just get that visual.
We want to stake out.
Eight and a
Stake
half.
out there.
How far does your dock go out? 150 feet. So it's
That's
gonna be
what-
less than
You
the
know what
dock
would be
that's
easier
nearby.
is the dock right next door where the
Right.
launching ramp is.
Right.
Say it goes, what, 20 feet farther out from that?
Yeah, if you
How
go
about
there, you
putting a
get,
little
should give you a
buoy
good
out?
How far out
reference.
is that?
You're gonna
With
do
a
an
little
aerial
flag
photo?
on it,
You want
huh?
An aerial photograph, show it on an aerial?
Yeah, but I'd also just like a little buoy so I could stand on the ground and like look at
I
it.
don't know if that's realistic, but
Oh, why? You put it, this guy's got a boat. You just drop.
Appreciate that, Mary Ann, but I think there are other docks that are longer than this throughout the cove, correct?
Yeah.
Well, let's come back to that.
It's
We'll come back to
facilitate
that in a minute.
public sport, use of the waterlands to promote your rowing club.
I have a
I mean, the
couple
other thing too
questions.
is, again, you gotta remember the boats are maximum 60 foot. So the kids are gonna walk out there with it and then they're gonna put them on the dock, so you have to have that length
Yeah,
Correct.
to accommodate that.
no, that makes sense. Otherwise the program is just gonna be riddled with tripping over and
It's
whatnot.
safer.
What do you think, what's the optimistic timeline when you might see this
You
happen?
guys are kind of our last stop now. I mean, once we get the, authorization from the village board, things are gonna fall in place very quickly.
So the DEC is waiting a letter from the,
DEC's, yeah, they're waiting for authorization. Department of State is fine. Army Corps, again, they don't seem to have a problem. Trustees don't seem to have a problem, but they wanna sort out some details of the applicant. It's not.
Oh.
But they seem to have, we have their full support, so.
So help me, this is a 60-foot shell? Is this, if this is like 100 feet from here to here, that can't be a 60-foot shell.
No, that's probably not depicted as a 60-foot shell now.
So.
Between 10 and 50 feet.
Yeah.
There's all kinds, you can have
They
a
range.
two-person
Well,
shell.
we've been talking about 60-foot shells, so I'm just wondering whether or not, so
Well, I mean, if that portion of the floating dock is 75 foot long,
this is 75 feet.
yeah. So that thing's gonna be, I mean, if you lay it.
It'll be like from here to there.
Yeah, it'll be, yep, basically. And you need a little bit of room.
I have
obviously,
Right.
questions.
behind it, though.
This depicts pilings on both sides of the floating dock. Wouldn't it be easier to launch if you just have the pilings on one side?
Structurally, I mean, you have experience with this.
We're actually hoping for
Not that I
no,
really care, but I think it.
we're hoping for no pilings, to be honest.
We-
We're gonna
we
anchor it
added-
at the shore. There, similar to breakwaters extension.
Yeah.
With the anchors and the screws down.
yeah, we had that
Never
discussion
know
about that.
Right.
When we were out there, we were talking about the pilings would be
At the very end.
at the very end.
Yeah, but for purposes of putting this,
Oh,
all the
you
agencies, I
need them.
tried to figure put a number of pilings out there. That way, if we have to backtrack, it's fine. Instead of adding more pilings after the approval.
Yeah.
That's
So-
fair, yeah. Like I said, it doesn't make any difference.
So you think you might be able to just live with the two outboard ones? That would be the ideal.
Two at the base at the shoreline.
Yeah.
That's connecting to.
Yeah.
To the ramp, and then two at the outer end. And then possibly, if we need to, some screw anchors somewhere along the way. It's gonna be a learning process with this dock and especially with that length. I've seen them set up. I had pictures
Do
that
you
were
have
submitted.
a dock builder picked out?
Not yet.
I think that's your first answer. So dock builder will tell you right away how many pilings and what they want to put in and everything.
Yeah. But we've seen these docks. This is a very typical rowing dock at the university level. From not only on rivers, but open water and stuff. So we're duplicating. I have pictures. I don't know if they came in the package, but that show that, dock that length without the pilings there. And stuff. If we have to, we can put them along the side, one side. Ideally for us, we'd like to be able to launch from both sides of this dock.
Right, so two outboard,
Depending on the wind.
Right.
and that would suffice for weather, for any kind of wind or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sorry,
If you had two out there and the conical ones would be inboard of the two, they would not protrude above the dock
I
itself?
think we need the dock builder, somebody specialized. A photo of that dock, I think would be important, and the dock builder
Right.
saying this is what they feel comfortable putting in on that dock.
well, the
Just
dock,
knowing the prevailing uses of the cove there,
the docks themselves are not getting built. We're buying pre-made docks, low
Right.
profile.
Right,
That
So
are there,
the dock-
but we
the
need
dock
the
builder-
ramp builder. We are gonna have a builder for the ramp that's going over the wetland. That's there.
the dock manufacturer will be able to tell you exactly
Yeah.
how many pilings you need then. That's an easy.
Yeah, and as I said, I've seen a number of these things and most of them, in one or two cases, they had the pilings on one side, not too many of them. Because they're very light, these docks, it's not carrying the weight that's a normal,
Dock,
big
yeah.
boat dock would have. And that, we're not setting it up that anybody can tie up to it, we're not even gonna have any cleats on the dock. And stuff, so
You might
it's
try.
really for kayaks, rowing shells, paddle boards.
well, but you do have to worry about worst case scenario, which would be windage. You've got wind, so,
Yeah.
right, when you're not there,
Lighter docks tend to get beat up faster.
Yeah.
than Heavier docks.
yeah.
Have you thought about a repass stairs on the side?
What is that?
Stairs to go up and over the dock if you're walking along the shoreline? I don't know if it's necessary, really.
I don't know, yeah, I mean, usually it's, the Southampton trustees ask for that, they have not, I mean, honestly, they could just probably.
I mean, if it's.
These are steps along the
Land, there is no issue
Yeah,
going around.
that's basically-
Yeah, that was another discussion we had out there, and it's kind of like, how much do you want to build into this thing before you just go, come on, man, you just go whoosh
Yeah.
like that, and.
They can come up and walk onto the land and then up around, so it is village property there, so.
So you'll be coming back to us with a formal application, is that right?
Shortly.
Now, will that application include at least a conceptual site plan for how you're using the whole area within the 75, or within 150 feet of the
Mean high
mean
water.
high water line, including parking, porta johns, equipment storage? There should be a layout for that stuff.
What about?
There was a layout given 15 years ago to the trustees. I mean, it hasn't really changed.
Yeah, I can.
But we can do photos, we're laid out now.
What you
We can
update-
give you photos
Yeah.
and stuff.
Are you gonna have porta johns there?
We
There's a
haven't
porta
taken
john
them
now.
It just got delivered today.
Yeah,
Oh,
whoa,
Quick, quick.
this is in the same location that it was last year?
Yeah, but it's very movable, and then the water sometimes moves it itself. We got a super high tide there, but
I have to say, it's not the most sightly thing for the neighborhood.
But
But
it's,
it's
it's,
necessary, right?
it does the job.
very hidden behind the racks, and there's some growth there also that's blocking it, so unless they're coming down there, they're not seeing it.
Well, I guess I would like to speak to however we can help expedite this.
Right,
I think that Aiden brings up a good question, is if you are putting this out to bid or starting to get some construction responses, it would be interesting for us to see what it is that you're gonna actually put in the ground. The dock, I've seen those images, but at some point we gotta get.
The dog, doesn't the dog thing pretty much show it, the one?
I mean, it just shows placement of the pile.
No, but as far as the land part, I think that's what he's asking, the land.
No, I wanna see the,
Well, I think the
Yeah.
whole
Like a
pile is-
real,
Yeah,
yeah.
So Brant, is this subject to like some kind of buffer? That there be plantings along the shoreline? Does that get triggered at all here?
I believe it's a vegetated wetland that they're going through, it's what the plan says, I haven't seen the
Mhm.
site. It's a
Well, it's a-
village owned property.
It may not. be.
Right.
It's a road.
really.
I think it's a road end, I don't know. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know that the village would want to undertake that kind of.
Yeah, I'm just asking whether or not it gets triggered once you put something like a dock in there. Because it's a structure that is coming here. So I
I
don't,
don't think they have the capability, it looks like there's a curb that's just a few feet away from it.
Yeah, and then it goes. it
is
blends into gravel.
can you launch a boat from that road? Was that road designated a place to launch your
Well, it's
boat?
fenced off right now, so.
Well, there's like a low fence.
Yeah.
You can launch a kayak or a paddleboard, you can't launch a real boat there.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's too shallow, isn't it?
No,
So you get
there's
out.
No,
right
you
away?
could do that, but so that will remain
pretty good water.
available. So if somebody wants to bring in their kayak that doesn't belong to the
yeah.
Well,
club.
that was, from day one, I was told this has to be open to everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
a
the
marked
premise
access
that
point.
we're.
So that would argue for, as the road goes to the water, and you've got your deal here. I mean, I don't know if you put in a lot of planting, it's gonna get,
trim, maybe,
I mean,
maybe not, I mean, if they use the dock. I mean, it's kind of part of the point, to have, offer a designated
Right,
area.
exactly.
Instead of people going here and going there and just
Mhm.
trampling on it.
Well, that's the hope. That's the hope, right? It's gonna
Yeah,
have, in the long
protecting
run,
it.
there'll be a lesser impact on.
well, it's gonna be pretty
So
wide,
where's the
which is a good
funding
thing.
coming from for the dock?
We've been getting donations for the last 2 years since we started this project, but honestly, I've been saving for this since day one, 17 years ago.
Wow.
Have you looked at the village, looking to try and back it at all?
We were hoping to finish this up a little bit, the village is, village said they won't pay for it, they'll help us fundraise for it, that's the word that I got.
All right, well,
From there, as we
So-
get a little
so-
closer,
Thanks a
I'll
lot.
get the real numbers, I mean, we're budgeting between $50,000 and $75,000 to do this, and most of that money, but the dock part itself is roughly, unless it changed since I looked. The floating docks, 60 feet long or whatever they come out to, is running about $40,000. I'm getting quotes from anywhere from 40 to 150
Yeah.
for the structure that I have to build on land to get to that dock.
Okay.
Right.
So once I get this approved, we know exactly what we're building, then we're gonna go a little heavier. I've had people offer me money, but they wanna know that we have the permits in place.
Right. All right. Thank you guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so
One more
a
question.
lot of times when we have these docks, the material that's used are these flow-through materials or what? Is that what we're using here?
On
So
the
that
deck, on the fixed portion, yeah.
on the fixed portion, exactly right. So that the grass and whatever it is
Yeah,
can
that-
continue to live underneath the dock.
Maybe the grass will actually grow there, there's nothing
That
there
would be
now.
good,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, so our immediacy on this
Tuesday.
is, obviously we want as soon as possible, but the neighbor has already got dock permits. It's gonna squeeze the area that's there now
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I'd be very happy to continue walking into the water at no cost. But as I said, their neighbor's dock is is forcing us to do this.
Where is the neighbor's dock going
We
in?
have another neighbor here. Jerry, do you have any comments on this or would you like to speak at all?
Fine with me, as long as it doesn't interfere with my launch ramp, which is directly adjacent.
I can't really hear him.
It looks a little tight there, but it doesn't look, I mean, you got 25 feet between the docks, so. As long as whoever's using the ramp is aware of the rowers, there's no issue.
Ideally, I wanted it parallel to mine, but apparently that's not possible because of the lot lines.
Yeah.
You would get maybe 10, 5 feet.
We haven't, that ramp's sort of a low use ramp, or at least they're launching early. We've had no run-ins at all in the 17 years, not even once.
No, it's not, it's usually the same 10
Yeah.
people.
All right, well, listen, there will be a formal application submitted. If any of the neighbors have any comments, they'll have a chance to speak again. And in the meantime, you have a little sense of some of the things we're thinking about and look forward to the application. Good luck on Tuesday night with the board. So
Now, what are we thinking Sag Harbor's gonna take lead on this, or is that, you're gonna leave it to Southampton? This is part of
I don't know if they're,
the issues that we're running into. Southampton owns the water.
That's the trustees,
Right,
right, but it's a Sag Harbor Village
Okay.
Harbor Committee permit. It
okay.
happens every time there's some waterfront issue in Southampton or East Hampton, because the trustees also offer
Okay.
their 2 cents.
they'll make that determination and that'll be resolved before you get to us.
Excellent. Okay,
It's not usually a problem.
and we would, if you guys have any input on this project or something else you want to see, you know,
Or donations.
Oh, you'll.
our donations.
Or let us know when you're having a fundraiser.
You may, yes, listen,
party.
you guys do a great job. It's
Thank you.
very well supported by the community. Just to clarify, even though you're a club, you are open to everyone. There's people from both Sag Harbor and outside the village.
When I started this, after breakwater,
Great,
all right, that was a lot of the concept and
great.
on that, and to have a low cost, we're the lowest fee rowing club around unless you down in Alabama, but everything else is 2 to 3 times the price for kids to go rowing.
Okay, all right. Listen, thank you guys very much
Thank you.
and we'll see you soon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Brand have anything to say?
Yes, sir.
Brand?
Make sure you know.
So, you know, everybody I talk to that uses it.
Oh, yeah. But there are issues.
Who's this guy next to him in the back, in the?
That's Billy Mack.
Not
Oh,
Billy
that's
Mack.
Jerry. He owns the marina next door. They're supposedly in final negotiations, the village to buy it with CPF money. It's like an $8 million purchase.
What are they gonna do with it?
What?
What are they gonna do with it?
Keep it open to the village.
The
They're gonna
village is
run
gonna
it.
buy it?
What? The village, yeah, with CPF money.
How come you guys don't buy it?
That marina there?
I think we
The
have
one next
John
door.
on the Zoom from NPB, Nelson Popen
Oh.
he's handling the EIS for 11 Bridge.
Okay, the next item.
Next one.
So do we need to formally close that discussion item and move on to the next?
I don't think so. Do we have anybody here from 11 Bridge and
I think that's what Liz is saying.
Hi, good. How is everyone? Good evening.
Okay.
All right, the purpose of the discussion today is to provide the Harbor Committee with background so that it can determine the role it should play in the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR, and I know this board is familiar with that term, process that's being conducted for the project proposed at 7 and 11 Bridge Street. More specifically, the planning board, in its role as a SEQR lead agency, is requesting that the Harbor Committee consider providing comments on the record regarding the draft environmental impact statement with the planning, which the planning committee has accepted and has circulated for public review. It's important to emphasize that the Harbor Committee will retain its statutory authority over the application. I don't know if an actual application has been received, but if it hasn't, it will. And the Harbor Committee will be required to fulfill its usual obligations and its deliberations and ultimate decision on the application, which is to make a recommendation regarding coastal consistency. The planning board's role as lead agency in the SEQR review does not diminish the Harbor Committee's authority or obligations. Any input the Harbor Committee provides on the DEIS will be helpful to ensuring completeness of the record on which the finding statement, which is the last step in the process that the planning board will take, and the finding statement will be taken into consideration by the other boards. The Board of Trustees, the ZBA, and the Historic Review Board are also involved in this application. The ongoing public review of the DEIS offers the Harbor Committee the opportunity to ask questions about the proposed project so that responses can be prepared with additional information to be included in the forthcoming final environmental impact statement. So this process under SEQR is a little different than what you've experienced in the past. This is the most extensive version of the SEQR process, where it goes through an EIS, environmental impact statement. First, it's a draft environmental impact statement, then a final environmental impact statement, and then the finding statement is the last step in the process. Importantly, the DEIS, which is subject to review at this time, was prepared by the applicant, and although it was subject to what's known as completeness review by the planning board prior to its acceptance and circulation for public review, the DEIS is the applicant's document. In contrast, the final environmental impact statement, which is the next step in the process, will be the planning board's own document on which decisions will be based. The planning board, as the SEQR lead agency, will have absolute final authority over the content of the FEIS, and that was not the case in the DEIS. The finding statement, which is, again, the final step in the SEQR process, will be based on the information and analysis in the DEIS, which has already been completed, and particularly the FEIS, the final environmental impact statement, regarding the impacts of the proposed project and the measures that will be implemented to mitigate those impacts. This finding statement will summarize this information and analysis and will prevent a conclusion. This is where the whole process is leading up to, as to whether the project is approvable based on environmental considerations, as balanced against any benefits that the project may have. Therefore, it's critical that any questions be asked now prior to the close of the public comment period on the DEIS so that these issues can be addressed in the FEIS and accounted for in the finding statement. Planning board held a public hearing on April 22nd to receive comments on the DEIS, and the hearing was left open and will be continued on May 27th. The DEIS review period currently is scheduled to close on June 27th, so there's a bit of time for the Harbor Committee to review the DEIS. And I believe that flash drives with the DEIS were circulated to members of the board, and the DEIS is also available on the planning board's webpage.
Did we get that?
I got one.
Just a brief summary of the project. I suspect that many of you are familiar with it, but just to bring anybody up to speed that's not. What's being proposed is a 3-story mixed building on a parcel that's slightly less than 1 acre. And the site at 7 and 11 Bridge Street currently contains a commercial building with a mix of commercial uses and a 1.5-story frame dwelling. Under the proposal, all of the existing improvements would be removed and replaced with an 81,000 square foot building containing 48 apartments, and that would include 28 market rate units and 20 workforce units. 8,500 square feet of service-oriented commercial space, and a 16,000 square foot internal parking garage. A total of 137 parking spaces are proposed, with 44 to be provided on site within that building at ground level, and 93 would be on the adjacent site at 5 Bridge Street, which is the former Gasball site that's currently being used as a public parking lot, the gravel lot. The application requires numerous local approvals, site plan and special exception approval from the planning board, 7 variances at current count from the ZBA, approval from the Board of Trustees for extension of municipal sewer service, approval from the Architectural Review Board, and coastal consistency determination based on review and recommendation from this committee. It's also noted that the property is undergoing supplemental environmental remedial action under the New York State Brownfield Program. And that's being overseen by the DEC. Purpose of today's discussion, and certainly if you have any questions, you can jump in, is to solicit comments from this board. And we can get into the logistics of that in a little while. This outreach is being conducted with all the village boards having jurisdiction. While any comments are welcome and will be addressed in the FEIS, questions about the aspects of the project within the Harbor Committee's jurisdiction would be most helpful to the process. So, in terms of the Harbor Committee's involvement in this, since it's the proposed action requires consistency evaluation under the village's LWRP, the Harbor Committee's involvement is advisory. You're going to make a recommendation to the planning board, which will be considered in the finding statement. However, it will be appropriate and helpful for the Harbor Committee to ask questions seeking to obtain additional information to determine the degree to which the proposed project, as discussed and analyzed in the DEIS, is consistent with the LWRP. The DEIS's LWRP consistency analysis is presented on pages 126 to 135 in the DEIS. There are certain key issues that may be addressed in more details in other sections of the DEIS, so I would suggest that you start with the consistency analysis. They go policy by policy, and if there are questions that pop into your head as you're going through it on, like flooding, look in the DEIS. There might be more analysis on the flooding issue. So issues that you might want to look at in more depth: flooding, climate change, and sea level rise, groundwater elevation and stormwater management. I'm sure you're all aware that the groundwater level is very high at that location, just a couple of feet below the surface. Sanitary waste disposal. The existing commercial building on the site is connected to the wastewater treatment plant, but the house, which occupies about a third of the site, is not currently connected. Visual resources, it is going to replace a 1-story commercial building and 1.5-story residence with a 3-story building that occupies essentially the whole site. and historic resource value of the residence at 7 Bridge Street, which is proposed for demolition. That's a historic structure. This is key here. It's important that any comments from the Harbor Committee at this time focus on factual and analytical aspects of the proposed project without suggesting a predisposition toward a particular outcome or decision. So right now, what we would ask you to do is, as you read the consistency analysis as it's presented in the DEIS and other sections of the DEIS, if you think you need more information, if you think the information provided is inaccurate or needs to be elaborated upon, those are the types of questions that would be helpful to the process. But we don't want to suggest that you do or do not think that at this time that the project is consistent with the LWRP. And that's all I have for now. I'd certainly welcome any comments. I'll ask Liz if she has anything to add.
I would just say that you have time to look at this and make sure you review it, but we want to formalize any comments to the planning board by the next meeting, which is June. What did you say, Marion? It was June. The next meeting.
Yeah.
The VBOT?
No, your meeting.
Oh, June 5th, June 5th.
June 5th. So by then, we want to have, yeah, I would like you to review it if you haven't done so already and then come up with questions, and we can formalize those questions in the form of a resolution adopting the missive to the planning board, and John will help us do that, of course.
So the resolution would not necessarily be one of approval or
No,
disapproval?
no, that comes much later. It would just be any questions you have with regard to that area of the DEIS that you would like more information on. In the FEIS, the final
And
environmental impact statement.
And can we schedule some discussion time on our next agenda for doing that? Yes.
Absolutely.
Should we
Yeah.
email you questions or John questions
You can do
before
that.
then, or just we want to talk about this at the next meeting? Is the idea?
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the next meeting. We should absolutely talk about it at the next meeting and make sure we formalize everything.
Good.
Yeah. And then-
Let me ask you, John, who are you representing here?
I'm with Nelson Pope and Voorhees. Grant's office is right over there.
Right,
And I do a lot of the seeker work out of this office.
okay.
After the next meeting, what comes back to us? The final EIS?
No, the DEIS is being reviewed and it's out for review at least until the end of June. We'll see what happens at the next hearing date for the planning board in a few weeks and later in May, and see if they want to extend the comment period anymore. But once you hit the end of the comment period, then all of the comments that come in are compiled, and the next step, the final environmental impact statement, will have responses to all those comments. Typically, and the way it's going to be done in this case, because it is the typical way, the applicant gets the first shot to prepare responses to the comments because they have a more intimate knowledge about the project, and they are undertaking additional studies to fill in some of the gaps. But like I said previously, ultimately, the planning board is going to decide what the content is. So if they receive something from the applicant in that initial submission of the responses, they can change it, they can ignore it, come up with their own responses. So the next step is for that back and forth with the applicant after the close of the comment period to prepare the final environmental impact statement. And that's going to take, it's already 2 months down the road before the comment period closes. Is going to take months after that to go with the back and forth to come up with a final environmental impact statement.
All right. So it's incumbent upon each of us individually to review this material, to go online if we need to. And
Right, so Doris, is it possible that I could request a hard copy of this?
We have a hard copy in the office.
You can come and look at it here.
Yes.
I would like to have it, like I can do it on my kitchen counter and flag things that I have
It's really
questions.
big. It's in
It's
the library
Very
too.
large.
Yes.
It's 260 some odd pages.
but it's also online.
It's online and you have
There's
your
appendices
memory, your
too.
flash drive, it's in your packet. or-
I know, I just don't like reading things on the computer, so I
Right.
thought I would just ask to have a hard copy, but
You can
I think the answer I'm hearing is no,
They're
huh?
expensive to reproduce. There's a lot to them. The appendices are pretty large, but if it's
There's one at the
available.
library and there's one here and there's one downstairs too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And if you have any questions for me, certainly, and you know, you can certainly ask Liz questions. You can, get in touch with me, at the same place. You can, call Brandt and, get my contact information if you want to reach out to me.
What's his last name?
Okay.
Ellsworth.
ELLSWORTH.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very
the
much.
email address is jellsworth@nelsonpope.com. So the same email that you have for Brandt, just put J Ellsworth in front of it. And obviously the phone number here is the same for me as it is for Brandt.
Oh, okay.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I have for
Okay.
now.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you. I look forward to hearing from you on this.
Good job, John, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that concludes the
wanna
public
go back to the
discussion
minutes?
session. We have the minutes to approve. First are the minutes from March 6th.
So I was in Argentina, so I zoomed in for Gobler's presentation and then I signed off.
Okay.
So I wasn't really a
Okay.
part of the meeting.
All right, so you can abstain or not
Yeah,
vote
but
or-
you know, it says that I'm present, so Doris, I would just, you know, it says I was remote, but I didn't really like pay attention to any harbor committee business. I was just here for Chris Gobler's president. Yeah, so they'll change that. Okay.
Any other comments?
No.
Well, okay. Do I hear a motion? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 6th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
I second.
Second, Will, all in favor? Aye. All right, next are the minutes from the Thursday, April 3rd meeting.
Right.
I think everybody here was present.
I was
I
not.
wasn't.
All right, except for the two of you.
Yeah, this is when it was just a small little group here.
And we had
Remember how
both on
lonely that
each
was up
side
here,
and we
three of
like
us?
ripped through it.
Yeah, we did.
All right, so the three of us are here though, so I don't have any comments. Will, do you have any?
No comments.
Mary
No
Ann?
comments.
Okay, is there a motion to
All good.
approve the minutes
I
from
make a motion to approve the minutes of April 3rd.
second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. With that, we conclude the meeting and
I make a motion to adjourn.
do I hear a second?
Oh, don't you usually ask if there's any comments? Maybe
I don't think there's anybody. there.
nobody up there? Okay.
But isn't the fact that we have a public session beforehand, do we have to ask again? Or, no?
No.
All right. With that,
Made a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Mary Ann second. And it was unanimous.
What a surprise.
I have to tell you, it's so funny. I've remember Catherine